When I tell you I am excited, I mean it. I am so excited. And you might ask, why are you excited? What's exciting? First of all, let me tell you about my week. The past week has been, I would say, busy. So first it started with my 10th year wedding anniversary. Yay! I've been married for 10 years now. And then I got busy with that. I had a very busy week with that. And after that, just right there and then while we were celebrating our anniversary, I caught a cold or something and my voice went away. And so I wasn't able to record a podcast because I had a very busy week the previous week. And then this week, something went off with my voice and I just couldn't record. But today I am happy to be back. And the reason why I say I'm excited is because this episode is the first of a series. Listen, when I tell you that this is going to create a shift, it is going to create a shift. It's going to create a transformation in your life. And you would always look back to this season and say, yes, this is where my transformation started from. So today we're kicking off a brand new series that I already know is going to shift your identity and bring you into a whole new level of freedom. Welcome to the Purposefully Confident podcast, the go-to space for Christian women who love God but sometimes wrestle with doubts, comparison, and feeling not enough. I am your host, Osariemen, a wife, mama of two, and your go-to Christian life coach, here to help you ditch fear and walk boldly in your calling. Each week, we're sharing faith-filled truths and mindset shifts to help you build unshakable confidence. So grab your AirPods, sis. Let's shake off doubt and walk in purpose. Welcome to the first episode of the Breaking Free from Low Self-Esteem series. So this episode is all about awareness. Before we talk about overcoming low self-esteem, we have to talk about what it is. We have to define it and really dive in and understand what it is. When you want to overcome an enemy, you have to understand their strategies sometimes. And so before we talk about overcoming the enemy, before we talk about healing and building our confidence and boldness in our purpose, which we will get to, and we have to get to know what we are dealing with and how it has been holding us back. So what is low self-esteem? We use it a lot. I think the first time I discovered the phrase low self-esteem was in secondary school when I picked up a random paper. You know those kind of papers where they put the months, the birth months of people and kind of define them and say these people are more like a horoscope. Yeah, if right now I'm just thinking about it and I'm saying that was probably a horoscope, because how do they get to know? They say people who are born in this month usually do this. So you look at that and you choose your birth month and automatically forces you to choose all of the things that have been written to define those group of people. And so now I'm even thinking about it. That is such a horrible thing. Horrible idea. I picked up the paper and I looked for my birth month, and then I saw the word that people who were born in this month usually have a low self-esteem. And I was like, what is a low self-esteem? And this was what prompted me to head over to my dictionary. This was secondary school, yeah? We didn't have the internet and we didn't even have access to phones at this time. So I went on to look for my dictionary and looked for the word. And this was how I discovered the phrase low self-esteem. And since then, it has stuck to my mind. This is just like a side piece of advice here. Do not follow horoscopes. The only thing that you should I know we are so eager to find out about ourselves, go on a self-discovery journey, and we just wish we could find someone who would tell us who we are, because there's this deep yearning inside of us for identity. But you should never look to any human being to give you your identity. Your true identity has to come from the one who created you and the one who knows you. So let's get back into our discussion. Low self-esteem is a distorted identity. It is when you have a negative self-image. What is the self-image? The way you see yourself. You see yourself in a negative way. And we're not talking about the way other people see you right now, because that is a completely different discussion. We're talking about you, the way you see yourself. So the image you carry of yourself does not match the image God has spoken over you. It doesn't match the image God created you with. I know I'm giving you a lot of definitions right now, but just pick. I hope that one of them would resonate with you. Okay? It is a negative inner narrative you've rehearsed for so long, it has become familiar. You cannot even tell the difference anymore between what a positive self-image would look like and a negative self-image. You carry this negative self-image and it seeps into your day-to-day choices. It shows up subtly, and sometimes not even subtly, it shows up loud. It is that belief that you are not enough. And then you get to see it in your actions. You get to see it in the way you treat yourself. You get to see it in the way that you treat other people. You get to see it in the way that you treat your dreams, your desires, your visions, even if these visions are given to you from God. Now, why is this a problem? You've lived this way all your life, so why is this a problem? It is a problem because you will never be able to attempt anything that is bigger than your self-image. You would never be able to attempt anything that is bigger than the way you see yourself. So if you see yourself small, you cannot do something big. That's what it means in simple terms. The capacity to move higher and step into greater things is determined by some factors, and your self-image is one of them. There is a limit to how far you can go, and if you eventually climb up the ladder with a negative self-image or make a lot of money, all of this will just reflect the negative self-image that you have, the image that you have about yourself. So money, it doesn't build up your self-esteem. It amplifies what is already there. Leadership positions, all of this success and all of that, they only amplify what is already existing. Now let's dive into the scripture. And we're going to be reading from Numbers chapter 13, verse 33. And it says, "We even saw giants there, the descendants of Anak. Next to them, we felt like grasshoppers." And that's what they thought too. So, the children of Israel, the Israelites, this is where Joshua asked them to go spy the land, and the land was filled with giants and all of that. But I want you to pay particular attention to what they said. They said, "We felt like grasshoppers in our own eyes." This is the image that they had about themselves. They brought back the reports to Joshua, and they expected him to believe and everyone else to see it that way. And so you are moving around and having conversations with people, and not everybody has the same self-image as you do. But in verse 33, it says, "We felt like grasshoppers in our own eyes." And that's what they thought too. Wow. This just reveals the image that they had about themselves, the picture that they had about themselves. Guaranteed, yes, they went into a land filled with giants. But if they truly knew who they were and the God that was behind them, you would look at God and look at who God is, and every other giant becomes nothing to you. But these people fail to see it because of the image they had about themselves. So a negative self-image always leaves you feeling less of yourself, to the point where you start to imagine and cook up things that do not exist. You start to imagine that is the way other people see you too. And this is what causes, it spirals into people pleasing and trying to find acceptance in the wrong places, because you already think, your mind is programmed to think that you are so little in the sight of those people and you are nothing in their sight. And so you are trying and working hard to be something, and you will do anything to make sure that you are seen as something in their sight. Let's look at another example from the Bible, and this time we're going to be looking at an example from 2 Samuel chapter 9 verse 6 to 8. This is the story of a prince named, he was from royalty. And so you see why I said even success doesn't change the image that you have about yourself. He was a prince. He was from royalty. He was a family. He was the grandson of Saul, the king. But his grandfather had his own thing going on. So his grandfather had a low self-esteem, had a negative self-image, dealt with self-pity and all of those things. But we're not getting into that now. We're talking about his grandson, Mephibosheth. In verse 8, Mephibosheth bowed respectfully and exclaimed. Okay, let me just give you a backdrop. David made a covenant with Mephibosheth's father, Jonathan. And after some time passed, David was like, oh wow, I wonder if there's anyone who's still alive from the family of Jonathan who he made a covenant with. They had a very good friendship, good relationship. And so he wanted to help someone from their family. And so he went on looking for, and he found Mephibosheth. But Mephibosheth happened to have been crippled. And so he was in a very bad situation in his life. And so David invited him over to the palace to have a feast with him. And this was his response. Verse 8 says, Mephibosheth bowed respectfully and exclaimed, who is your servant that you should show such kindness to a dead dog like me? Now, if you were to analyze this, you probably say, oh, he was just trying to be humble. Absolutely not. This is not humility. There is a difference between having a poor self-image and being humble. Humility is ascribing whatever it is that you own or you are to God, knowing that it is not you who has done it. But it doesn't involve or require you calling yourself names such as a dead dog, you that the creator of the heaven and earth created, calling yourself a dead dog because you're standing in front of the king. Yes, life may have dealt you situations and circumstances, but it still doesn't change who you are before God. This was his response. He was not humble. He had a very poor self-image. And we're not playing blame games here. No. We're just highlighting and bringing light to something that may have been plaguing us for a long time. So if you're listening to me on the other side, here's the truth about you that you may not even recognize or remember. You were packaged by the one who created the universe. You were packaged, you were designed by the one who created the universe. True confidence comes from knowing who God is. If I say that you were packaged by the one who created the universe, you may not really understand the gravity of that statement, because you don't know the one who created the universe. And that's why it's very important for you to know. He packaged you with his divine assignment. You are a gatekeeper and you hold keys that will not open up to your generation except you rise up and unlock those doors. You have prophecy over your life, and it is your duty, you have a responsibility to make sure that that prophecy is fulfilled, not just for you alone, but for generations and generations to come. However, you need activation. So all of these things that I've mentioned, you have the keys, you're a gatekeeper, you have a design assignment, you have prophecy, all of it is lying dormant in your life right now. And that is why it is hard for you to see yourself past your situation and your circumstances. All of these things are lying dormant. You need activation. Think about a grenade. A grenade is loaded with all sorts of concussions and things that can cause havoc in a place. But it usually lies dormant until it is activated by the user. And when it is activated, some grenades can give time for the user to throw it. So you see, it just ticks before it finally explodes. For some of us, we are in that phase. We are just in that stage right now where we have been activated, but we're just taking some time before we explode, before those things that God deposited inside of us starts to come out. But for some of us, we're still lying dormant. Some of us are still lying dormant and waiting to be activated. Guess what? The only person that will activate this for you is Jesus. Your relationship with him will start to stir up that activation because he's the one who knows you and knows everything. He knows the corners, he knows the places, he knows everything that he deposited inside of you. So regardless of your background, your age, your speech pattern, your race, all of those things, they matter towards the assignment that he has called you for. Now, this is a safe space, so we're not doing any blame games. If it is triggering or creating some form of emotion, it's okay. It's okay, okay? That's why we are on this series right now. And I can guarantee you by the end of this series, you will be rejoicing. Low self-esteem isn't just a lack of confidence, because you can have a positive self-image and still lose confidence sometimes. Confidence, it shakes, it depends on certain things. So it's not just a lack of confidence. It is a poor vision issue. A lack of vision, the right vision for yourself about your life. You're seeing yourself through the lens of wounds, experiences, and the lies that the enemy has planted instead of the truth God already established. So you might ask, why do Christian women or why do Christians still struggle with feeling a low self-esteem? How can someone who loves God and serves God worship passionately and still feel unworthy, insecure, or invisible? This might be the question on your heart, and I'll answer it. It is because salvation fixes your relationship with God, but it doesn't automatically fix your relationship with yourself. When you accept Jesus as your Lord and your Savior, that's salvation. You're saved. But then there's still a process of working towards becoming a better version of yourself, having a better relationship with yourself. And this is where all the work is. So salvation is free, but obtaining our inheritance is not free. There is a price to pay. And this is why a lot of people are not living in the true inheritance, because there is a price to pay. You can be spiritually devoted and emotionally wounded at the same time. You can speak in tongues and still struggle to speak kindly to yourself. And many Christian women, they've been taught how to serve, how to give, how to be strong for others, but not how to see themselves the way God sees them. Listen, God will not shame you. Instead, he wants you to shine as a light on the places that you've been hiding. And you cannot heal what you hide. You cannot fix what you will not face. You cannot grow past what you refuse to name. And that is why we are naming it today. That is why we're bringing all of these things to light today. So friend, this is just the beginning. Today, we have turned down the curtain and we have let some light in. In the next episode, we're going to be diving into the roots. Because low self-esteem didn't come from nowhere. We're going to get into where it came from. And trust me, once you find the roots, you can finally pull the whole thing out. All right, sis. If you need to breathe, breathe. Okay? If you need to pray, pray. And I will meet you in the next episode. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. If it was a blessing to you and you enjoyed yourself, kindly do me a favor. Leave me a review, as this would allow this podcast to be discovered by women like you. You can also be a blessing to someone by sharing this episode with them. Until I come your way next time, stay blessed.